So officially welcome everybody to today's session of the 7-Day Business Fuel Challenge. I am Rebecca Newman, the founder and CEO of the Grow Project, which is a business and training and education program where we help businesses to grow, integrating the smarts, mindset and fuel in the areas of business, health and lifestyle. And I'm fortunate to be joined today by the amazing Linzi Boyd. Linzi, you have many feathers under your cap. You are an international speaker. You are a serial entrepreneur. You are the author of this amazing book, which I have, as everyone can see, and has probably seen on my Instagram, Done What You Asked, which was tagged it up and used it like a Bible.
Thank you.
The author and also the youngest partner of Sherlaw's Group. So, as well as the business of brand school. And we're going to talk today about the fuel of brand and what brand can provide for your business. I'm very excited we get to kick off with you and the topic of brand kicking us off into the discussion on business fuel because you've really showed me some revelations in terms of how important brand is and how it's often overlooked in business and in strategy. So without further ado, I would love us to tell you I'd love you to tell us a bit more about your journey and how you came to sell 2 businesses before you were even 24.
Oh, look, I left school at the age of 15 and I decided to take on buy a retail shop at the age of 18. And you know, it was a crazy journey because at the age of 18, you're out there and you kind of decide, I'm going to bring Replay and Diesel into the north of England, which were 2 brands that actually at the time Diesel wasn't the size that it is today. And I got my first taste of what celebrity could do for your business because I had quite a famous footballer's wife work for me and the clothes literally sold out. And so at the age of 20, I decided to sell that first shop and I moved to London and I set up a footwear brand. And we spotted a massive gap in the market for fashion sneakers. And we sold 150,000 pairs of shoes in the first season. Now, typically when you're a fashion brand and you're first starting out, you might be lucky to sell 2,000 or 3,000 pieces. So as you can imagine, 150,000 pairs, we had to then go and get it funded. Now, when you're sat there with an incredible order book and you go, how am I actually going to manufacture this stuff? I was sat there at 21 going, well, how am I going to get this stuff produced? So I went on a journey of VCs, I went on a journey of angels, and this is like going back 20 years ago, and eventually managed to get it funded. 4 years on, fast forward, we built it up into 7 distribution channels. We had it in the Design Museum as Design Classics, and we sold the business to Caterpillar. And so at a very young age, I got my taste of kind of growing a business, funding a business, and exiting a business, and actually learning on the job without any help. And so then at 24, I decided to set up my third business, which was a brand marketing agency. And we went on the journey of building, renovating and refreshing brands. And over the 15-year cycle, we built some of the biggest leading brands in the market. So people like Topshop, Miss Selfridge, G-Star, Wrangler, Lacoste, and worked across very much a B2C environment, working with fashion, lifestyle and celebrities. 3 years ago, I decided to transfer that knowledge into more of the business sector. So met a guy called Darren Sherlaw, became the youngest partner of a firm called Sherlaw's Group. And I was brought in to A, build out the global brand for Sherlaw's, and B, build a school, which is now called the Business of Brand. The school was built to inspire and educate a new generation of business leaders to help them understand how to build a famous brand off a purpose. From having my book out, Brand Famous, it enabled me to have my IP, my method in the market that kind of showcased how to build that business, how to build your brand, and then be able to go and bring any industry sector into the school and show them that it wasn't about building a business from a B2C perspective or a B2B perspective anymore. It was just about building a business from a business to people perspective. And when you did it from that way, you could bring any industry sector into a room and build their business from a brand conversation into a business plan. So that kind of outline.
So tell
Go on.
So tell me about. Oh, I've got a bit of feedback. Have you got feedback, or is it just me? Okay. Tell me about the problems businesses face that brand can really work to.
A lot of people come to me because most people, particularly in the enterprise space, the entrepreneurial space, small, medium-sized businesses, most businesses go to market with their product. And what we teach people is to go to market with their brand. And actually, the brand conversation can build a really big brand business value in the market for you to be able to get funding, to be able to exit your business. It provides you with that platform for a huge growth value proposition in the market that when you go to market with your product, you just don't get, because you're going with a much smaller conversation than you are if you build it out from what we call the top down, from a brand conversation rather than a product conversation.
You better tell us about top down.
Okay, so we teach people about a top down approach rather than a bottom up approach. In the market, when you speak to the enterprise space, naturally, and look, I am a serial entrepreneur. I've built a number of different businesses, so you naturally have to get sales into your business, right? You know, you've got a business, you're there, you have to sell the product. And so what you do is you start with sales. You then move into, okay, now I need to open up a channel. I need to open up another channel to market. So I've got my sales. Now, how am I going to open up another channel? Once you've done that, you go, now I need to put another product into market. So let's add in another product. And then finally you'll go, okay, let's try and shoehorn the brand into the conversation. And most people will look at it and go, well, let's look at it from brand being branding. What's the logo? What's the visual tone? What's the look and feel? What we teach people, and what I've done for the last 25 years with building businesses is, and particularly in the B2C space for very large businesses, you go from a top-down approach. Most of the market leaders like Nike, Adidas, Virgin, Microsoft, all the big guys go from a top-down approach. They start with the brand. Now, brand is very different from branding. Brand means that the brand is the end-to-end business strategy that sits from your asset within the business. Now, what that means is that you first start off with, what is the value? What's the hidden asset that is in my business? And how do I bring that out to the top? So rather than going out with a product conversation, I'm actually going out with a much bigger value proposition. Once I understand that, and I look at what the gap is in the market, and I look at what's my purpose, why am I doing what am I doing, then you can look at building out the product architecture. And because you understand the brand value and the brand conversation, it's much easier to design out a full product architecture than it is to just go piece by piece, one product at a time. Once you understand that, you then design out the channel strategy because you understand what the brand value is and what the product architecture is. So then naturally, you then understand what channels to put it out to market. And then finally, you go into your sales conversation. What's the campaign that I'm going to use? What are the sales tools? How do I solution sell rather than just selling one product at a time? And that's called a top-down approach. Now, if you design that into what we call a business brand strategy, you have then got a documented sheet of paper that outlines this full process to be able to either go and get funding, look at talking to your management team about the growth strategy that sits within the business. How are you going to exit if that's something that you're looking for? It gives you a full understanding of a business brand strategy rather than just having a business strategy that sits around the numbers.
And tell me about the assets. As a sample of the type of thing you typically uncover.
There can be many different assets that sit within an organization. So what we talk about is cracking the business. So somebody may come into the business. I'll give you an example. There was a guy came in London and he had a password app. and he'd been going out for 18 months trying to sell it. And most people have been saying to him, yeah, it's great, but there's kind of similar things in the market at the moment. He came into the school, and we redesigned his proposition so that he was going out, re-educating the market to own your digital DNA. What that meant was we could go into a who conversation. He could then go to a bank and say to them, are you aware that people are hijacking their DNA because they don't want to give their data away? So people think that their data is super valuable, and the reality is that a lot of people in the market are hijacking that data, so it couldn't be valid. And then on the other side, he can go to people, businesses, small people, and say to them, are you aware that bigger companies are actually taking your digital DNA without being asked, or pretending to ask you for it from other places? So without changing his product, we just changed the story. We looked at the value. We went back out to market. He ended up getting a massive partnership with a big bank. He won an award in an incubator, and he's got funding. Now, before doing that, before understanding the hidden value and the asset, he would never have been able to go out and get that proposition.
So tell me then how brand is different to branding.
When you sit with most people, and I hear, and most people say to me, oh, so you do branding? And I'm like, no, I actually don't do branding. I bring in branding people to help me to do that side. That's not what I do. Branding is your logo. How does your website look? What's the visual tone? Even looking at your branding conversation, but from a today space. So what does your business look like today? What we do is build brands. We look at the value proposition for tomorrow. So we look at where is your industry shifting to, and where could your business play in the market in a tomorrow conversation, and look at the hidden value, the value that really is sitting within the business that you may not see yet, that can be brought right out to the forefront. Now that enables you to build a full brand strategy, like an end-to-end conversation from a top-down approach. Branding just looks at the visual tone of your business.
I think it's been really interesting for me. I've in meeting you 18 months ago, initially on the phone and then Skype, and then we had the good fortune of spending solid amounts of time together in October, and then the March just gone. One of the things I found, I guess, most exciting to work with you was that in the construction business we had built from brand. And it was one of those moments where I actually went, wow, that just makes sense. We had built our vision as to where we wanted to be now. And one of the nicest things I find about your frameworks and Sherlaw's frameworks is that they are so cleverly simple that they just make sense. But I'm able to actually reverse engineer them, reverse apply them to things that have worked, and understand why things have worked and perhaps why things haven't. And with Newmark Constructions, we set the vision. We were very clear on what that was. We attributed, it meant creating branding was very easy. Our customer experience, we knew exactly what it was. We knew where we wanted to deliver in the market, where the gap was, who we were talking to. And they were the conversations we went out and had from day one. And I think what was heartening for me, having a very eclectic background of skills from working in the high performance arena and project management, then having a foray in marketing for a while, and then moving very much into business strategy, was it was so heartening to see how amazing and how powerful brand was. And that's certainly something that you've opened me up to. And I guess both, the other thing it's really provided is a lot of energy, which is why I really wanted to bring brand into the conversation today. And earlier today, one of our doctors of Chinese medicine, Dr. Nat Gringudis, mentioned about authenticity. And I think how you bring into business the alignment between the personal DNA of the person and also of the business is incredibly energizing. Can you tell us a bit about the DNA side of things and what personal DNA is?
So, like I said, I've been building businesses from a brand conversation for about 25 years. And we always built the business from a brand conversation. And then digital came in, and we now build off a strategy from 3 pillars. So it's always brand, people, and purpose. And what we now talk about is the people pillar is as, if not more important than actually the brand pillar, because people buy from people. And so people want to see who sits behind the business. Now, why is that possible? Because we are all already a brand on the internet. And if you Google you, if you Google me, if you Google anyone, most people Google before going into a meeting. And so they'll Google you and either nothing shows up, or you show up as somebody else, or hopefully you show up as something credible and people can see within 3 seconds what it is you are. Now, if they Google you, they then go onto a LinkedIn profile. And then the third thing that they'll do is go onto your website. So if it's the third thing that they're doing, going onto your website, then businesses have to understand that they need to be investing in their business celebrities, the people within the organization, as well as the brand. And this is quite a mind shift. Now, if you take it one step further and you look at the purpose conversation, you then look at, why are you doing what it is you're doing? What's the purpose that sits behind it? What's the purpose for the brand and what's the purpose for the people? And more importantly, if you allow the people to actually express what they love and why they're doing it, you find that the brand culture starts to come alive. And what we're then able to do is to market that brand culture externally as a marketing campaign back out into the market. And that then opens up conversations for new partnerships, that opens up recruitment conversations, and it also brings in clients, because all of a sudden you're using other people's channels and networks to be able to tell the story of the business in their voice, from what they believe in and what they care about and what they love. If organizations could take themselves out of a fear space of allowing their people to speak for them and go into a space of enabling to help them to create their voice, then they'd have a much bigger growth from an inside out rather than just an outside in.
Now, you've mentioned exit quite a few times, and a lot of the women I'm working with haven't even thought about exit, or maternity leave is a possible exit, but they're not actually thinking that they want to exit. So I guess the first time I heard exit, I was kind of like, oh, I guess there was the sell one day thing, but the biggest thing I took away from it was choice. But talk to me about exit and how brand relates to exit.
Look, I started in this grow fund exit space at a super young age, completely by accident, had no idea what I was doing at all. You know, going and funding a business and then exiting a business twice before the age of 24. Nobody helped me, and I really wish that they had. And then what we used to do within the agency was build up the value for people's businesses so that they could go and sell them. Sometimes, other times they were just growing them, but other times we were literally building value and people would go and then sell their business. Then coming into Sherlaw's and working alongside Darren and the team, I saw, because Darren came from the fund management side, I saw the other side of the coin. And I actually saw what all the stuff that we had instinctively done, right or wrong, in the hard way, instinctively done over the last 25 years. In the last 3 years, I've now had the method put around growing, funding, and exiting your business. And so now when I go back out into the market, and I work alongside businesses, if you design your business out on an exit number, you then understand the journey that you want to go on. Now, whether or not you want to exit at that time is kind of immaterial. The fact is, you design your business as if you want to do it to an exit number, because you then understand when you're going to fund, how you're going to fund it, if you're going to self-fund it, if you're going to need to bring in funding, and you're able to build a much bigger value for the business when you understand the number that you want to get to. Without doing that, you're kind of just stabbing in the dark. and you're not really sure where you're going or what you're doing, and you've not got much focus as to where the journey goes with the business.
I think also the pace is really different. One of the things we've noticed working in Newmark Constructions with you, and then also as part of the Business of Brand School and with the Grow Project, is you get a lot of choice around speed, around funding, and the energy that can really be created by that. And the other thing is, speaking when you've got your eye on the bigger prize, there is a massive opportunity there to actually speed things up, because when you're then working towards that and you're working towards the top rather than running towards the bottom and being sales focused, you can bring things into reality a lot quicker. And you also, I think for me, I've been my entrepreneurial nature is that I see a lot of bright, shiny objects, and I see a lot of ideas, and having that real clarity around brand and purpose for the Grow Project, for Rebecca Newman, when I'm aligning with other organizations, when I'm looking for partners, I know exactly which bits align and which don't. So it actually really helps me with distraction and helps me to consider opportunities. And I just find, that it's amazing how it's almost like the opportunities just rock up. And the ability to work then with the Sherlaw's methodology and all the amazingness in their frameworks to actually then have all the methodologies which sit behind it to assess it and run it through and make great decisions. Why did you join up with Sherlaw's, considering you've got, if you Google Linzi Boyd, which is the first thing I did without even realizing, I Googled you and I was like, wow, this woman goes on for pages. Any wonder she wrote the book on brand fame. And for anyone that hasn't read it, I do highly recommend it. And we are giving it away in our prize pack. So jump across and register for the 7-Day Business Fuel Challenge, even if only you want to win Linzi's book. And I was just blown away. So you had your own methodologies.
Look, when I worked with businesses over the last 15 years, we would build a lot of businesses out and we would create huge spikes for them in the market and create huge revenue growths. And then I'd go back and sometimes they would be flying and other times they'd be slipping back. And I wouldn't know why. And I'd find it quite frustrating because I'd be like, well, we've done all the different areas that we needed to do. And then when I joined up with Sherlaw's and I sat with Darren and I worked with them over the 3 years and looked at all their IP, the recognition was you can build all what we call the revenue side and the asset at the front end. Yet if you don't build that infrastructure, what I now call the engine that sits behind the business, then potentially the business is going to slip, and it's going to slip quite quickly. So you'll have big spikes and you'll have drops. And so my realization was that, yes, I've got the methodology to build out the revenue, and they've got this absolute world-class IP that builds out the infrastructure and the proper full-on engine that sits behind the business. So what we did was we pulled the two together, and now we have the 360 degree to be able to really go out and properly build a business from the top down.
And that's exactly what you are doing in 13 countries across the globe. And you have amazing, happy clients, of which Newmark Constructions is one. And that was why, I guess for me, my specialty is in building high performance environments, and that infrastructure that sits, whether it's in a business, whether it's in life and in the house, whether it's in health, wherever those infrastructure elements are, which are often missed. And those pieces, those pillars that really make a base where you can create revenue and sustainable revenue, and you have it all mapped out. And I think one of the other things I find most intriguing about Sherlaw's is, for example, if people jump on and Google Sherlaw's and the entrepreneurial journey, they'll see the video of Pear and Ginger and the journey and how predictable actually the journey can be. And the Sherlaw's IP just connected with me so strongly, hence why we have a partnership now between the Grow Project and Sherlaw's, and also with yourself. And it's just been incredibly energizing. So I would love to jump across to fuel sources for yourself. You are currently in LA. You're in Canada in May. You're in Australia. You've been in Australia in March. You live in London. You're back in Australia in July, and you do have 2 kids. You also have an entrepreneurial husband who also tours the world with his amazing methodologies, more perhaps in the health and movement space, I would say. So Linzi, what fuels you? What's your top 5? And they can come from anywhere, any source, anything that fuels you. We've had such a diverse range of answers. So what are your top 5?
Me. Absolutely, first and foremost, like my life wouldn't be complete without my children. So and my family. So that's my top number 1. Number 2 is myself, in the sense of, like, from a young age, kind of, I feel like you have to have that internal driver, because without that, you get so many knocks along the way. Like, building different businesses, people will say, you can't do that. No, that's not going to happen. And you have to drive off your purpose. You have to kind of have that internal thing that goes, yes, I can. Yes, I can, and I'm going to. So for me, that has to be my second driver. A third driver for me is being healthy. Kind of, I live a super healthy life. I eat really well. Yeah, of course, I have the odd glass of wine or whatever, but on the whole, I eat very well, and I do yoga and I do exercise and stuff, and I couldn't imagine life without that, because for me, life wouldn't be balanced. Because when you do travel and you run different businesses and you're always on the go and you're jumping on planes and things like that, the most important thing for me is having food in my bag, like food that I can eat, and actually making sure that I get off the plane and I do some yoga and I'm healthy. So, and then the 4th one would be making sure that I stay in really nice places. So, and I know that sounds crazy, but when you're traveling a lot, like you want to be in a place that actually fuels your system. And so I know people kind of rock up at a place and they go, oh, I'll just make it do and I'll just stay there. And actually, for me, it's the whole package. It's like, no, I'm actually going to stay in a lovely place, and because I'm going to put myself first, and I'm going to make sure that because then I know when I'm teaching or I'm running a one-on-one or I'm running a workshop, or I'm going to give more in the environment because I've actually stayed somewhere that actually helps me. And then the 5th one is my whole driver is shifting the world into a new era. And I feel like I'm able to do that now, with working with different brands, being able to build brands off a purpose, being able to look at my own purpose and what I want to deliver in the world, and making sure that I stay on purpose for myself. I think what I would call the first half of my life, which was more in building out brands from a commercial space, I loved. Yet it didn't necessarily fulfill my own personal purpose. And so I feel like older, wiser, you kind of, as you kind of look at, well, what do I really want to do with the second half of my life? And that for me is my complete driver. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what that definitely is what keeps me going when I feel tired, or when I feel like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, or that is a big driver for me.
That's awesome. I think in the latter part of the call, environment, that 4th comment that you mentioned of where you're staying, has come up quite a bit more. And I think that environment, whether it is when you're traveling, and I find it especially when you're traveling, but also at home, and that environment that you create, and it need not have massive price tags attached, but it's about the environment that you put yourself in and those structures that you have in place that just allow you to succeed. And another really good example is our open house that we had recently in Brisbane, and where we did, we all co-located. The place was really lovely, and you're talking about everything that allows you to relax and renew when you are traveling, especially everything through to the bath salts in the room and the tea and the filtered water and all of those kind of things, because when you are traveling, you do have different expectations, and you are often, for you and I, it is when we're presenting and running groups and we're front of room and people are speaking to us all day and we're go, 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 and unless we do refuel ourselves, and some of those infrastructure things can really make a difference. And for those women who are building businesses and babies at the same time, it's really important that all of those elements connect together. So I love that you've mentioned those. I'd love you to leave us with a couple of parting thoughts. First is, what do you think the opportunity for people is in business when they have nailed brand as a fuel for their business and for their life?
If you really get it right and you build out your business from what I would call the asset conversation, the true value proposition, you can actually go out to market and properly stand out in a very, very crowded space. It allows you to build a much bigger value. You can then go to, if you are looking for funding, you can start getting bigger funding because you're not going from a product conversation. So all of a sudden you're going to somebody that wants to fund you, and you're going and you're saying, well, here's my full brand business strategy, and I understand the bigger value piece that sits in it. So you're not going to them and going, here's my app. You're going to them with a full business brand strategy. Now, what that does is it enables you to get more money. It also enables you to look at, like we talked about before, how you want to exit. So, and it's a new education piece for people. And trust me, I didn't build my businesses in an exit mindset. I just happened to exit twice. Now I build my businesses from an exit mindset because I understand the true value of what that brings once you've understood your bigger brand value conversation that sits with your business plan.
So that isn't something that we've had a chance to talk today about, which is standing out in a crowded marketplace. And I know that's one of your specialties. So I would really encourage people. We will send out some links to where you can engage further with Linzi. The best place is linziboyd.com. Every time she comes to Australia, we sell out. The first time we launched the school in Australia in November, she sold out in 24 hours. And she's currently got a wait list open for the July school. So you can get all that information from linziboyd.com. There's also webinars and material on the net around how to stand out, and of course brand famous. I'd really encourage you to jump on our Business Fuel Challenge website, which you can see there is RebeccaNewmanOnline.com.au/Business Fuel Challenge, to be in the running to win Linzi's book and start from there and have that fuel of brand in your business, in your life, and to absolutely succeed across all. So Linzi, thank you very much. I'm sure people will see us together again soon. We will certainly be on stage again with Open House, with Sherlaws, with the Grow Project, with everything that we do. And of course, my kids wanted to jump on and speak to your kids, and I tried to explain to them, no, Isla's actually asleep and Kai's probably asleep as well in LA. So thank you again for joining us late night from LA. Wonderful as always, and I look forward to chatting to you soon. For those that are new to today's session, we would love to send you all the freebies that I keep forgetting to mention. So jump onto the website, put your email in the Count Me inbox, and we will send you the freebies, as well as you'll have an opportunity to win the 7-day challenge and the prize pack, which keeps growing in value because people keep giving me prizes, which is fantastic. So follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for the Grow Project and see our journey as it unfolds, or join us at one of our events for the Grow Lab or the Grow Project Experiment, and we'll see you very soon. Ciao, ciao for now. Bye.